What got me into this movement, though, I was a bookseller, and I also had a radio show at CHRW. Someone here is there. And I used to have a show there, and I sponsored a concert by a fellow named Jello Biafra at Centennial Hall. And it was from the Dead Kennedys, my favorite punk band of all time. And Jello Biafra came up, and he was giving a speech, and he mentioned this thing. He has a segment in his CD, I Blow Minds for a Living, from 1990, where he says he has a segment called Grow More Pot. And he didn't actually smoke marijuana, so I was curious about that. And he was talking about this great work by a fellow named Jack Herrera called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. I'd never heard of it before. But when I tried to sell it, they told me it was banned in Canada. I said, what? I mean, it's enough that this country banned your ability to open a store on Sunday. And it was enough that they tried to ban records, but they're trying to ban books that tell a true story about the history of marijuana. The government has that power. They have that ability. I couldn't believe it. And I was a bookseller. So the first thing I vowed to do, as soon as I found this out, was what I would do, I did every other time. I got all these books, smuggled them in from the United States, all these High Times magazines. High Times magazines were banned in Canada from 1987 to 1995. Couldn't get them anywhere. Not a single distributor who handled those magazines. Big, huge corporations with much power, much money, and all of them have lawyers. Not a single one was willing to challenge the law. Again, I learned you cannot leave freedom to the wealthy. You can't leave it to our government. You can't leave it to our institutions. Freedom is always defended by one lonely individual in this country who cares enough to take a chance. One lonely individual. I did that. I'm proud to be that individual. I'm proud to be the most wanted man in Canada for things like that, because that's all I've ever done. I've never hurt anybody in my campaigns. Nothing I've ever done. You know, I'll finish up by saying that it took me 5 years from 1990 selling those. I was even down at the London police station, and I've been there a couple of times. I smoked at the London police station here sometime on July 27th, 2003. I did not get arrested on that particular occasion, but I know that they would not come and charge me for selling those High Times magazines. You couldn't get them anywhere, you couldn't buy them, nobody had them. If you tried to bring them through and put them on newsstands, everybody feared to get charged. Fear was the dominant weapon used by the police to keep those true things. So I brought them in, and I gave them out free. I sold them in front of the police station. You see a picture of me, and I'm like 10 feet in front of the door of the police station, selling High Times magazine, waving them around, giving them away. So couldn't get charged. It took 5 years before we got charged, and that's because the police knew that if Emery gets a chance to go to court, he's going to win. Because there's no democratic country on earth, you'd think, that where a court would allow true facts to be banned by the government. But it took me 5 years, and it actually happened when a fellow named Umberto Arafida and I were giving out brochures at a high school in Toronto after some narcs had put an undercover agent in a high school and had rounded up about 30 of them. And it's a typical process, the police hire the youngest rookie they can find, female, who's joined the police, some hot girl, and then you put her in a high school with a whole bunch of, guys, and they go around and the girl asks all the guys if they know where to score weed. Typically, every single guy in that school in grade 12 knows where to find weed. Because what hot-blooded young grade 12 student is not going to want to impress the hottest, sexiest girl in town? Now, these cops are really about 23, 24 years old, pretending to be 17. So you can imagine, that is automatically probably the hottest girl at school. And so it's incredibly easy, as it is for all drug crimes, because unlike other crimes where you're a victim and you don't want to be, drug action is all consenting. It's two people who want to be together. It's really easy to find people. If you're going to criminalize two people who are consenting, then you're going to find lots of victims, because they're not trying to hide from each other. They're not even going to call the police, so it requires a special kind of police surveillance. But anyway, we were giving these brochures out to the students to remind them of the rights. It was a beautiful little pamphlet called 10 Things About Cannabis Every Parent, Student, and Teacher Should Know. It's a recommended literature. It's given out by educators for a sensible drug policy. It's since been updated. But that was what we were giving out when he was charged, because the police caught Umberto, giving that pamphlet out. And that finally, with my money and Alan Young's advocacy, lawyer Alan Young, one of the greatest lawyers this country's ever had, and still has, We finally got that law struck down in 1995 in the Ontario Superior Court here by Judge J. Ellen MacDonald. And that's why you can read High Times today. And that's why you can read Cannabis Culture and Grow magazines and all that sort of thing. And that's why you can still see it on the internet. Because those kind of laws outlawed books, magazines, videos, any kind of communication whatsoever. And that's when I really clued into what this is all about and what my whole destiny is all about. Because that law provided a $100,000 fine and or 6 months in jail for anybody who distributed a book or a magazine about marijuana. And I thought, well, that's really extraordinary because marijuana itself is only a $2,000 fine. But to tell the truth about marijuana is a 50 times greater fine. And that's when I realized the government doesn't care about marijuana. It's not even about marijuana. It's about the truth. Because everything I've ever done is always the truth. And I think I think you can look at it and see that it's the truth. It's not just my truth. By the time I'm done with you, you're going to be making your truth. Because none of anything that's ever happened to me makes any sense at all. The number one drug trafficking kingpin, the number one drug lord in all of Canada, you know what my convictions are this? I've been convicted on 3 occasions for selling bongs. I've been convicted on 1 occasion for promoting bongs. I didn't even know there was a law against promoting bongs. So we're all breaking this law. Anybody's got an internet site that has bongs on it is promoting bongs. And there's apparently a law in there that says you cannot promote them. I've been convicted on 2 occasions of selling seeds. And I've been convicted on 1 other occasion of promoting seeds. Seeds don't even have any drug quality, and you can't even promote them without breaking the law. I've been convicted of giving away half a gram of hash to an American tourist. I got banned from Vancouver's downtown, where I operate my empire, as it were. I got convicted of giving away half a gram of hash for free, and I've been convicted of passing a joint. I went to jail for 3 months, a 3-month sentence in Saskatoon Correctional Provincial Jail for passing 1 joint. It was a 22-year-old person. The cop didn't even see the joint. There was no evidence the joint ever existed. The police officer came by, a group of 40 of us in a park, after I gave a speech at the University of Saskatchewan. And the police officer said, "What's going on here?" And somebody said, "Well, we're just smoking a joint with Mr. Emery." And he said, "Did you smoke a joint with Mr. Emery?" The cop said. And the young fellow said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Did Mr. Emery pass you the joint?" And he goes, "Yes, he did." They arrested me right there, and I spent 3 months, 67 days in jail on a 3-month sentence for somebody alleged saying I passed him a joint. Like the police officer said, you can spend 67 days for passing a joint. I was the janitor of the administration center of that jail for 67 days because I passed a joint to another adult. Don't ever believe it when people say no one goes to jail for marijuana.